Hey everybody, GT Cam here once again. Thought I'd come to you with a little bit of a socket comparison here. One of the commenters mentioned that he'd like to see a comparison of some of the sockets, and I might just turn this into a small series. Thank you, Oscar Quezada. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Not so good with some of that. I know about enough Spanish to ask for a beer in the bathroom and start a bar fight. But anyway. What I've got here, Snap-on FRL 80 3/8 drive long handle ratchet with a quick release. Kind of partial to these. Actually, I'm just generally partial to longer handle quick releases in general. So I had to go back and look at the packages. Oh yeah, drop a like and subscribe at the bottom if you have a chance. So with that out of the way, I had to go back and look at the Dewalt packaging to make sure it actually said deep socket on there. Because there's a little bit of a difference between the deep and the shallow here. Holy crap. The diameters and the wall thicknesses are all pretty close. None of them are what I would call a shallow broach. Let's see if I can get this in the line with the sensor here, so you guys can kind of see. They're both deep broach. The Dewalt is about 800 thou broach depth, and the broach depth on the Milwaukee is about 930 thou. Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of deep broaching. I know some people out there swear by it. I like to be able to put a fastener in here, just a nut, and be able to get it started without much problem. And when you have deep broaching like that, it's significantly harder to do. You end up stuffing stuff down in there to try and keep it up. That's what she said. Anyway, moving on. So we obviously have a significant difference in length. The Milwaukee 14 millimeter is 2 inches, 480 thou long. And the Dewalt is 1 inch, 973 long. Yeah, that's serious. Now, the 10 millimeters, the Dewalt is 1 inch, 795 thou long, while the Milwaukee is 2,475. Thereabouts, 2 inches, 475 thou long. You'll also notice that when we look at the backs of them, let's see if I can get the camera to focus. Hey, there we go. You'll notice we got sharper corners here in the drive side of the broach for the Dewalt, a little more radius in the corners over here. Neither one of those should be much of an issue. If you get a really sharp broach, it can lead to a stress riser that will later potentially crack. That's probably one of the benefits of all the off-corner loading stuff that we see out there, which I think was originated by Snap-on. I don't know that for sure, but I believe it was. But generally that means they radius the corners in here, and that should mean less chance of splitting one of these or turning them into a flower blossom. If you've never done that, it's a special feeling. And usually you're like, wait a minute, I didn't hardly do anything to it. The damage was done before. You just finally finished it off. So with that in mind, the other comparisons we've got here, when you look at the chrome quality between the two, it's strange, but the Milwaukee sockets, they appear to be a higher quality chrome job. Just looking at them. The Dewalt sockets are slightly smaller in diameter because our 14 millimeter Milwaukee comes in at 778 thou, where our Dewalt comes in at 766 thou. So you're a little bit smaller in diameter. So if you've got a real tight clearance, that might be an issue. But then again, you may need the depth of the Milwaukee. Or you may need the dollars left in your freaking wallet by the Dewalt. Anyway, in the 10 millimeter, the Milwaukee comes in at 560, actually 570 thou on the nose, where the Dewalt comes in at 575. So it's actually slightly bigger in the 10 millimeter application. Let's see, as far as the hex itself goes, our 10 millimeter is basically 400 thou there, and about 401 for the Dewalt. So they're real close there. On the 14 millimeter, the Dewalt comes in at 559. And the Milwaukee comes in at 560. So their broaching dimensions are real similar. They're real close. So what it will come down to with these sockets, as you look at them, like the wall thicknesses aren't hugely different, and it depends on the socket as to which one's got a thinner wall or smaller diameter for application. And you're going to start looking at how much depth do you want. This is almost short enough to be a mid-length socket, quite honestly. These actually look like a deep socket to me. So there's that. The Milwaukee also has the benefit of having the square base. In some applications, you might be able to get a 12-point box end wrench on that. Or if you can find the right size of open end, you may be able to get it on there if it doesn't have too much play. Another option would be to put the adjustable hammer, crescent wrench or adjustable wrench on that. That's not an that's unique to Milwaukee, quite honestly. I kind of like that feature. I also like the fact that the Milwaukee doesn't usually roll all that far when you leave the case unlatched and dump half the case. So overall, I think the Milwaukee makes a nicer socket. That said, they're a lot closer in dimensions than you might expect outside of the overall length. So you do with that information what you will. Most times I'm going to opt for the Milwaukee first, but I have that option. If your wallet is not that fat or you have other responsibilities you need to think of first, you might be inclined to go with a Dewalt. Part of the reason it's cheaper has to be that they're using less metal because they're shorter. But anyway, I think that covers what I've got for you. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. If you have any other suggestions you'd like to see, by all means, drop them down in the comments. And with that in mind, I don't have anything else for you on this. I've rattled on about deep sockets for long enough. So, y'all have a great afternoon. GT Cam out.